In June 2021, a real estate agent in rural Ohio entered a foreclosed house to prepare it for sale. The family who'd lived there, parents and 3 children, had abandoned it 6 months earlier, leaving everything behind: furniture, clothes, food in the refrigerator, family photos on the walls. But when the agent looked at those photos, she called the police immediately. Every single photograph showed the family smiling, not normal smiles, identical smiles. The exact same expression on every face in every photo, spanning 15 years. Same angle, same intensity, like someone had photoshopped the same smile onto different bodies. But these were physical photographs, Polaroids, film prints from before digital editing existed, and forensic analysis confirmed they hadn't been manipulated, which meant for 15 years this family had been posing with the exact same smile, and nobody knew why until police found the basement. The house. The house was a standard 2-story colonial in Millfield, Ohio, population 2,400, the kind of town where everyone knows everyone. The family was named Morrison. David Morrison, age 47, Linda Morrison, age 45, 3 children: Emma, 16, Jacob, 14, Sophie, 11. They'd lived in that house since 2006, 15 years, kept to themselves mostly, but weren't unfriendly. David worked remotely as an accountant. Linda homeschooled the children. Neighbors described them as quiet and polite. Nobody reported anything strange. In December 2020, the family stopped being seen. Mail piled up. Newspapers accumulated on the driveway. After 2 months, the bank initiated foreclosure proceedings for unpaid mortgage. After 4 months, the county wellness check found the house empty but secured. No signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play. Just an abandoned home with all possessions intact. The Morrisons had vanished. When real estate agent Jennifer Walsh entered in June 2021, she was doing a standard pre-sale walkthrough, document the condition, photograph the rooms, assess repair needs. She noticed the family photos immediately. They covered every wall, hundreds of them: birthday parties, holidays, casual snapshots, formal portraits, 15 years of family memories. But something was wrong with every single one. The smiles were identical, not similar, identical. Walsh pulled photos from different years, different occasions, different lighting conditions. She laid them out on the dining room table. The smiles matched perfectly. She measured them with a ruler. Same width, same curvature, same tooth exposure. She examined them with a magnifying glass. Same muscle tension around the eyes, same crease patterns in the cheeks. It wasn't just that they looked happy, it was that they looked identically happy in every single photograph for 15 years. Walsh called her supervisor. The supervisor called the police. Detective Robert Chen arrived within an hour. He saw the photos and understood immediately why Walsh was disturbed. This wasn't normal. Human expressions vary. Even when people try to replicate a smile, there are micro variations: muscle fatigue, different emotions bleeding through, natural asymmetry. These smiles had none of that. They were mechanically perfect, unchanging, like masks frozen in place. Act 2. The Discovery. Chen brought in a forensic photographer. They documented every photo in the house, 347 photographs total. Every single one showed the family with those identical smiles. But they also noticed something else. The children never aged normally in the photos. Emma appeared in photos from 2006 at age 1, then suddenly at age 7 in 2012. No gradual progression, just jumps. Same with Jacob and Sophie. Years would pass with no photos, then suddenly they'd appear several years older, but always with that same smile. Chen searched the house systematically. Bedrooms looked lived in, but strangely impersonal. No posters, no decorations, no signs of individual personality. The children's rooms contained beds, desks, and clothes, nothing else. No toys in Sophie's room, though she was 11. No teenage memorabilia in Emma's room, just empty spaces that looked like stage sets. The basement door was locked. Heavy deadbolt from the outside. Chen forced it open. The smell hit him immediately. Not decomposition, something chemical, preservative. The basement was finished, carpeted, well lit, and completely empty except for one thing: a video camera on a tripod pointing at a blank wall. Chen checked the camera. It was still recording, had been recording continuously for 6 months, 4,380 hours, all of it showing the same thing, an empty basement wall. But the timestamp showed the recording had started on December 18th, 2020, the day the family was last seen. Chen rewound the footage to the beginning. December 18th, 7:43 p.m. The Morrison family walked into frame, all 5 of them. They stood against the wall, lined up, and they smiled. That smile, the same one from every photograph. They held it for exactly 5 minutes. Then David Morrison spoke, still smiling, his voice distorted by the frozen expression. "We're ready now. We've practiced enough. We can finally stop." Then they walked out of frame. The camera kept recording an empty wall for the next 6 months. Act 3. The pattern. Chen reviewed all 4,380 hours. Most was empty wall, but buried in the footage were other moments, brief appearances by the family, always at night, always performing the same ritual. They'd enter the frame, stand against the wall, hold the smile for exactly 5 minutes, then leave. This happened 127 times over 6 months, every 3 or 4 days, like they were practicing, perfecting, preparing for something. But there was more footage. Chen found older tapes in a storage box. The family had been recording these sessions since 2006, hundreds of tapes, thousands of hours, and watching them chronologically revealed the full horror of what had been happening in that house for 15 years. The early tapes from 2006 showed the family attempting the smile, practicing. David would position them, adjust their faces manually. Hold it. Perfect. Don't move. That's the expression. Remember this feeling. The children were toddlers. They'd cry, struggle, but David was patient. They'd practice for hours, days, weeks, month after month after month. By 2008, the children could hold the smile for a full minute. By 2010, 5 minutes. By 2012, they could maintain it for an hour without wavering. The tapes showed the progression, the mechanical perfection developing gradually, the children's faces transforming from naturally expressive to unnaturally frozen, learning to override every instinct, every muscle memory, every natural reaction, until the smile became permanent, until it was the only expression they knew. And the photographs made sense now. They weren't taking normal family photos. They were documentation, proof of progress, evidence that the training was working. Every photo was a test, a checkpoint, verification that the smile could be maintained even during holidays, birthdays, normal family moments. The smile had to be perfect, always, because they were preparing for something, and that preparation had taken 15 years. Act 4. The message. Chen found a journal in David Morrison's office, dated entries spanning 15 years. The early entries from 2006 explained everything. "We've been chosen. We received the message 3 weeks ago. Instructions were clear. Perfect synchronization required. The family must become one expression, one identity. 15 years of preparation. Then we'll be ready for collection." The journal described the message as coming through their television, a broadcast that only they could see. Beings from somewhere else, something else. They called themselves the Collectors. They wanted human families, but only families that could prove perfect unity, perfect synchronization. The smile was the test. If the family could maintain identical expressions for 15 years, never breaking, never varying, never showing individual emotion, they'd proven they'd transcended individual identity, become a collective consciousness, and the Collectors would take them. The final entry was dated December 18th, 2020. Tonight is the night. 15 years complete. 127 final practice sessions recorded as proof. We are perfectly synchronized. We are ready. The Collectors promised they would come at 8 p.m. We will stand in the basement and maintain the smile, and they will take us. Finally, after all this sacrifice, we'll finally be together, truly together. No more pretending to be individuals, no more fighting our separate thoughts. Just the smile, just unity, just us becoming them. Conclusion. The Morrison family was never found. No bodies, no evidence of where they went, just an empty house and 4,380 hours of footage showing a basement wall. Police checked every possible lead, tracked their finances, searched for any sign they'd fled the country. Nothing. They'd simply vanished at exactly 8 p.m. on December 18, 2020. But Chen found one more thing. In the final seconds of footage from that night, just before the camera battery died 6 months later, there's a flash, a momentary distortion. And if you freeze the frame at exactly the right microsecond, you can see them. The Morrison family, standing against the wall, still smiling. But they're not alone anymore. There are others behind them, dozens of others, all smiling the same smile, all frozen in perfect synchronization. And they're not in the basement anymore. They're somewhere else, somewhere the camera shouldn't be able to see, somewhere that doesn't look like Earth. The case remains officially unsolved, but Chen doesn't talk about it anymore, because 3 weeks after closing the investigation, he started noticing something. When he looked in the mirror, when he saw his reflection unexpectedly, sometimes his smile looked wrong, too perfect, too symmetrical, like it wasn't quite his own anymore, like something had been practicing while he slept. And every morning, he checks the photos on his phone, compares them day by day, measuring, making sure they're still different, still naturally varied. Because if they ever start looking identical, he knows what it means. The collectors are watching, and they're pleased with his progress. And in 15 years, they'll come for him too. The town that forgot how to sleep. In August 2019, every single resident of a small town in northern Idaho stopped sleeping. Not insomnia, not restlessness, complete inability to lose consciousness. 1,247 people stayed awake for 11 straight days. No one could explain why. Medical teams found nothing wrong. Brain scans were normal. Blood work was normal. But nobody could sleep. And by day 7, people started reporting something worse than exhaustion. They could hear thoughts. Not their own thoughts, other people's thoughts. The entire town was becoming one collective consciousness, and the boundaries between individual minds were dissolving. By day 11, the CDC quarantined the entire area. By day 12, the town was empty. And to this day, nobody knows where those 1,247 people went, or if they're still awake. The town was called Ravens Peak, population 1,247, located in the Clearwater National Forest, isolated, self-contained. Nearest city was Lewiston, 40 miles south, the kind of place where people moved to escape, to disconnect, to live quietly, until August 3, 2019, when something changed. It started with one person, Margaret Chen, age 52, elementary school teacher. On the morning of August 4th, she told her husband she hadn't slept the previous night. Not unusual, everyone has occasional sleepless nights, but August 5th, same thing, no sleep, wide awake all night. August 6th, still no sleep. She went to Dr. Foster, the town's only physician. He prescribed sleep medication. It didn't work. She took the pills, laid down, closed her eyes, nothing. Just alert consciousness, watching the clock, waiting for sleep that never came. By August 7th, 12 more people came to Dr. Foster with the same complaint. By August 9th, 50 people. By August 10th, the entire town. Every single resident was unable to sleep. Foster called the state health department. They sent an emergency medical team. The team arrived August 11th and found something unprecedented. A town of 1,247 people who'd been continuously conscious for 8 days straight. The medical team ran every test available. EEG scans showed normal brain activity, no signs of the delta waves associated with sleep, but also no signs of the deterioration that should occur after prolonged wakefulness. Blood tests showed normal cortisol levels, normal melatonin production. Everything that should make sleep possible was present, but sleep wasn't happening. People would lay down, close their eyes, and remain completely, frustratingly conscious. But here's what terrified the medical team. Nobody looked tired. By day 8, people should have been hallucinating, delirious, barely functional, but the residents of Ravens Peak were alert, clear-eyed. Some reported feeling restless or anxious, but physically they were fine. It was as if their bodies had simply stopped needing sleep, stopped being capable of it. On August 10th, day 7 of the sleeplessness, residents started reporting a new symptom: auditory intrusions. Sarah Mitchell, age 28, described it to researchers. "I was sitting in my kitchen, and I heard my neighbor thinking about her grocery list. Not talking, thinking. I could hear the words in my head like they were my own thoughts, but they weren't. They were hers. I knew they were hers because she was thinking about foods I don't eat." Within hours, other residents reported the same phenomenon. They could hear thoughts. Not constantly, not clearly, just occasional intrusions, like radio stations bleeding into each other. Someone 3 houses away thinking about their mother. Someone across town worrying about their job. Random thoughts from random people. And it was getting stronger. By day 8, the intrusions weren't random anymore. People could identify whose thoughts they were hearing, could track specific individuals across town by following their mental broadcasts. James Parker, the town sheriff, described trying to have a private conversation with his deputy and realizing that 18 people across town could hear every word they were thinking. Not saying, thinking. The boundary between private thought and public knowledge was collapsing. Dr. Foster documented this meticulously. He interviewed residents, recorded their experiences, and he identified a pattern. The longer people stayed awake, the stronger the telepathic connection became. By day 9, people could hold conversations without speaking, could share complex thoughts instantaneously, could access memories that weren't their own. The entire town was merging into one collective consciousness. Individual minds were dissolving into something collective. And people were terrified. Because losing sleep is one thing. Losing your private thoughts, losing the boundary between yourself and everyone else is something far worse. Margaret Chen described it. "I don't know where I end and my neighbor begins anymore. I think something and immediately 6 other people respond to it. I try to remember my own childhood and I'm flooded with everyone else's childhoods too. I'm becoming we, and I don't want to be we. I want to be me." Act 3. The Evacuation. 5:30 to 7:30. On day 10, the CDC made the decision to evacuate. This wasn't a medical emergency anymore. It was something else, something unprecedented. They couldn't explain it, couldn't treat it, couldn't contain it, and there was growing concern that it might be contagious, that whatever was causing this could spread beyond Ravens Peak. But evacuation proved impossible. Residents refused to leave. When asked why, they gave the same answer. "We can't separate now. We're connected. Leaving would be like cutting off a limb. We need to stay together." The collective consciousness was developing a survival instinct. It wanted to remain unified, and the individuals composing it no longer had the will to resist. Dr. Foster reported his final observations on August 13th, day 10. The residents are no longer speaking verbally. They communicate entirely through thought. They move in synchronized patterns. When one person stands, 5 others stand simultaneously. When one person walks to the window, 10 others do the same. They're becoming a hive mind. Individual personalities are still present, but subsumed into something larger, something that thinks of itself as singular. They refer to themselves as I now, not we, as if 1,247 people have become one entity. That night, Foster tried to leave, got in his car, started driving toward Lewiston, but he only made it 3 miles before turning back. He told the CDC team, "I can't leave. I'm part of it now. I've been awake for 10 days too. I can hear them, all of them, and they're calling me back. Not with words, with need, with connection. And I want to go back. I need to go back." The CDC evacuated their team on August 14th, left Ravens Peak under quarantine, set up roadblocks 30 miles out, monitoring from a distance, waiting to see what would happen next. Act 4. The Disappearance. 7:30 to 8:30. On August 15th, day 12, satellite imagery showed something impossible. The town was empty. Every building, every street,
1,247 people had vanished overnight, no vehicles leaving, no signs of mass evacuation. They were just gone. The CDC sent a team in hazmat suits, found the town completely abandoned, doors unlocked, meals left half-eaten on tables, cars in driveways with keys still in them, like everyone had stood up simultaneously and walked away. But walked where? Tracking dogs found no scent trails. Helicopters found no groups of people in the surrounding forest. It was as if 1,247 people had simply ceased to exist in physical space. But they left something behind. In the town square, written in chalk on the pavement, a message. We found the place where thoughts go when you dream. We're there now. We don't need bodies anymore. Don't come looking for us. Sleep is how you visit, and if you can't sleep, you can't leave. Dr. Foster's final video log was found in the medical clinic, recorded on August 14th, hours before the disappearance. He's sitting at his desk, staring at the camera, eyes wide open, unblinking. I haven't slept in 11 days. None of us have, and I finally understand why. Sleep is the boundary between waking consciousness and something else, a place where the mind goes when the body shuts down. We couldn't sleep because we were being kept awake. Something needed us conscious, needed us connected, needed 1,247 minds linked together, strong enough to cross over. We're going tonight, all of us, together, as one. We're going to the place where dreams are made, and we're staying there. Because here, in waking reality, we're prisoners of individual consciousness, but there, in the dream place, we can finally be what we've become. One mind, one entity. Free. Conclusion. 8:30 to 9 o'clock. The CDC sealed Ravens Peak permanently, declared it a biohazard zone. No one is allowed within 30 miles. But the quarantine isn't about disease. It's about protection, because 3 months after the disappearance, people living near the quarantine zone started reporting sleep disturbances, difficulty falling asleep, intrusive thoughts from strangers, that same progression, and it's spreading, slowly, moving outward from Ravens Peak like a wave, a mile every few months, affecting more people, creating more connections. Sleep researchers are tracking it. They call it collective insomnia syndrome, but they know it's not insomnia. It's an invitation. Something in Ravens Peak opened a doorway between waking consciousness and the place where dreams exist, and that doorway is still open, still pulling people toward it, still promising connection, unity, freedom from individual isolation. The 1,247 residents of Ravens Peak are still out there, somewhere, in the space between sleeping and waking, in the place where thoughts exist without bodies. And every night, people who live near the quarantine zone dream the same dream. They're standing in a town square, surrounded by 1,247 people, all staring at them, all thinking in unison. Stop fighting. Stop sleeping alone. Join us, become we, become I. And some of them listen. Some of them stop sleeping, and when they do, they disappear too. One more mind added to the collective, one more consciousness absorbed into something that's not quite human anymore, something that used to be 1,247 people and is now something else entirely. So tonight, when you close your eyes, be grateful if sleep comes easily, because somewhere north of Lewiston, Idaho, there's a town where sleep never comes, where 1,247 people discovered what lies on the other side of consciousness, and they're waiting, in the place where thoughts go, hoping you'll join them, one sleepless night at a time.
In March 2023, a woman in suburban Denver called police because her neighbors hadn't moved in 3 days. Not hadn't left their house, hadn't moved. She could see them through the window, a family of 4 sitting at their dining table, same positions, same posture, for 72 hours straight. When police entered the home, they found the family exactly where they'd been seen, sitting at the table, eyes open, breathing normally, hearts beating, alive, conscious, but completely unresponsive. And they'd been sitting there for 3 days without eating, drinking, or moving a single muscle. Medical scans showed normal brain activity, but when neurologists tried to communicate, the family wouldn't respond, wouldn't blink, wouldn't react to pain. They just sat there, staring at empty plates. And they're still sitting there right now, 2 years later, still alive, still conscious, still frozen. And nobody knows why. The family was named Peterson. Mark Peterson, age 41, Jennifer Peterson, age 39, 2 sons, Tyler, 13, and Lucas, 10. They lived at 4782 Maple Street for 6 years. Standard suburban family. Mark worked in finance, Jennifer was a nurse, kids went to local schools. Neighbors described them as friendly, normal, unremarkable. Until March 15, 2023, when they stopped being anything. The neighbor who called it in was Susan Alvarez, living at 4780 Maple Street. She'd noticed the Petersons at their dining table on the evening of March 15th. Nothing unusual, families eat dinner. But on March 16th morning, walking past their window on her way to her car, she saw them still there, same positions. She assumed they were having breakfast. March 16th evening, she glanced over, still there, same positions, same posture. Now it felt strange. March 17th morning, she deliberately looked. They were still there. She called out to Jennifer, who she was friendly with. No response. She knocked on the window. Nothing. Called Mark's cell phone. It rang inside the house. She could hear it. No one moved to answer it. That's when she called 911. Police arrived at 10:47 a.m. Officers Martinez and Chen approached the house. Knocked. No answer. Looked through the window. 4 people sitting at a dining table, motionless. Martinez circled the house, checked all windows. Every angle showed the same thing, the family sitting there, staring forward, not moving. Chen called for backup and medical assistance. They entered through the front door, unlocked. The house was silent. No TV, no music, no sounds of life. They approached the dining room. The Peterson family sat at the table exactly as they'd appeared through the window. Eyes open, hands resting on the table, breathing visible but shallow. Martinez spoke. "Mr. Peterson, can you hear me?" No response, no eye movement, no acknowledgement whatsoever. Chen checked for pulses. All 4 had steady heartbeats, normal respiration, warm skin. They were alive, but they were also completely unresponsive. Chen waved his hand in front of Mark's face. Nothing. Shook his shoulder gently. No reaction. It was like the family had been switched off mid-meal, frozen in place, conscious but absent. Paramedics transported the family to Denver General Hospital. 4 patients who'd been sitting motionless for an estimated 72 hours. The medical team ran comprehensive tests. Brain scans showed normal activity patterns, alpha waves indicating wakefulness. Blood work showed dehydration and elevated cortisol, but nothing else abnormal. No toxins, no drugs, no pathogens. Physically, they were healthy people who simply weren't moving. Dr. Rachel Kim, the lead neurologist, described it in her report. "The patients are locked in a state I've never encountered. Not catatonia. Catatonic patients show abnormal brain patterns. Not paralysis. All motor neurons are functioning normally. Not vegetative state. They show clear signs of consciousness. They're aware, they're present, but they're choosing not to respond. Or something is preventing them from responding. I can't determine which." The hospital tried everything: verbal communication, written prompts, physical stimulation, pain response tests. The family showed autonomic reactions, pupils dilating to light, flinching from needle pricks, but no voluntary movement. No attempts to speak, no signs of trying to communicate. Just 4 people sitting in hospital beds, staring forward, existing in some space between consciousness and catatonia. But here's what made the case truly disturbing. The family's eyes moved in perfect synchronization. When one person's eyes shifted left, all 4 sets of eyes shifted left simultaneously. When one blinked, all 4 blinked. Dr. Kim documented this over 48 hours. The synchronization was exact, down to the millisecond. 4 separate nervous systems responding as if controlled by a single source. The hospital called in Dr. Martin Cross, a specialist in dissociative disorders. He spent 3 days observing the family. His conclusion was unsettling. These 4 people are still in their dining room. Not physically, obviously they're here in the hospital, but mentally they never left. Something happened at that table on March 15th, something that trapped their consciousness in that moment. Their bodies continued functioning, hearts beating, lungs breathing, but their minds are still sitting at that table, experiencing whatever they experienced in those final moments before they stopped responding.
Act 3. The House. 5:30 to 7:30. Police investigators returned to 4782 Maple Street. If something had happened at that dining table, there had to be evidence. They processed the scene like a crime scene, photographed everything, collected samples, documented every detail. The table was set for dinner. 4 plates, 4 glasses of water, a casserole dish in the center, contents dried out after 3 days. Forks positioned as if the family had been mid-meal. But here's what investigators found strange. The food on each plate had been arranged identically, same portion size, same distribution. When they measured, each plate contained exactly 347 grams of food, not approximate, exact. Someone had measured and portioned with precision. They found Mark Peterson's laptop open on the kitchen counter. Last activity, March 15th, 6:23 p.m. He'd been researching something specific, synchronized consciousness experiments, hive mind meditation techniques, family unity exercises. Browser history showed weeks of research into collective consciousness, methods for achieving mental synchronization, techniques for dissolving individual identity in favor of group unity. In the master bedroom, they found journals, Jennifer's handwriting, entries dating back 3 months. Mark believes we can become closer, not emotionally, mentally, actually experience each other's thoughts. He found techniques online, says we need to practice together, family meditation, focused breathing, staring exercises. We tried it last week, sat at the table for an hour, just breathing together. The boys thought it was weird, but Mark insists it's important, for our bond, for our family. Later entries showed progression. We've been doing the exercises every night for a month. Something is happening. During the sessions, I can feel them, Mark, the boys, not just sense them, feel them, like we're sharing the same space inside our heads. Mark says we're close to breakthrough, says 1 more session and we'll achieve perfect unity. The final entry was dated March 15th, 6:15 p.m. Tonight. Mark says tonight is the night. We're ready. We've practiced enough. He says we'll sit at the table, hold hands, breathe together, and let ourselves merge. He promises we'll still be individuals. We'll just be connected, forever, always knowing what each other thinks and feels, never alone again. Part of me is scared, but part of me wants this, wants to never feel separate from them again. We're doing it at 6:30, right after dinner. Act 4. The Truth. 5:30 to 8:30. Dr. Cross reviewed the journals and browser history. His supplemental report explained what likely happened. Mark Peterson was attempting amateur consciousness merging. Based on his research, he believed he could synchronize his family's neural patterns through meditation and focused intention. What he didn't understand is that consciousness synchronization, if achieved, is irreversible. Once multiple minds begin operating on the same frequency, they can't separate. They become entangled at a quantum level. The individual consciousness dissolves into a collective state. The theory is this. On March 15th at 6:30 p.m., the Peterson family achieved what Mark had been working toward. They merged. 4 separate consciousnesses became one unified entity. But the process didn't result in enhanced connection or shared experience. It resulted in a feedback loop, each mind reflecting the others infinitely, trapped in a recursive cycle where they can't distinguish between individual thought and collective thought.
They're still sitting at that table because mentally they're stuck in the moment of merging, experiencing it continuously, forever. The family was transferred to a long-term care facility. They've been there for 2 years, still sitting upright in their beds, still synchronized, still staring forward. Hospital staff feeds them through tubes, maintains their bodies, keeps them alive. But the people who were Mark, Jennifer, Tyler, and Lucas Peterson are gone. What remains is something else, one entity occupying 4 bodies, trapped in the moment of its own creation, unable to move forward, unable to go back. Conclusion: 8:30 to 9:30. The house at 4782 Maple Street remains empty. Susan Alvarez moved away 6 months after the incident. She told reporters, "I can't look at that window anymore. Can't stop imagining them still sitting there in the dark, still frozen, still trapped. And I keep thinking, what if they're still conscious? What if they know they're trapped but can't do anything about it? What if merging their minds didn't create unity, it created a prison?" Dr. Cross published a paper on the case. His warning is clear. Human consciousness evolved to be individual, separate. Attempts to artificially merge or synchronize multiple consciousnesses are extremely dangerous. We don't understand the mechanisms, we don't know if the process is reversible, and we certainly don't know what happens to individual identity when minds merge. The Peterson family may be the first documented case, but I suspect they won't be the last. There are online communities dedicated to consciousness merging, groups practicing synchronization techniques, people who believe they can achieve collective consciousness through meditation and intention, and none of them understand the risk that once you merge, you can't separate, you become trapped. 4 people trying to be one person fragmented across 4 bodies, neither individual nor collective, just frozen forever. The Peterson family sits in their care facility right now, eyes open, breathing, hearts beating, alive but absent, and every time hospital staff walks past their room, all 4 sets of eyes follow in perfect synchronization, tracking movement, processing information, still conscious, still aware, still trapped in the moment when they tried to become one and instead became nothing at all. So be careful what you wish for when you say you want to be closer to someone, because some distances exist for a reason, and some boundaries shouldn't be crossed. The space between minds isn't empty, it's essential. It's what keeps you, you, and them, them. Cross that boundary, and you might find there's no way back, just an eternal moment of merging, repeated infinitely, with no beginning and no end.